You're listening to PDR Tool Talk, all about PDR stories, tools, and techniques.
For the thousands in attendance, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of PDR Tool Time Revolution, episode 118. I'm your host, Vince D'Alessandro, here with Daniel Grom and John Renstrom. How's it going, guys?
Awesome.
Doing great.
What's going on this week, guys? You doing good?
Yeah, I've been, I had a monster dent today. I've been working on basically one car all day, basically the whole side of a brand new truck.
Oh.
And soft, big dents, about the size of a basketball, but there's like 4 or 5 all the way down the side of it. And so I pulled out my my Carbon Tech hail rod and went to town on it. And what's great about this story was the guy, I gave him an estimate, and he comes back and he said, "Oh, I went to my dealership's body shop, and they said that you can't do it." And I get this big smile on my face.
Challenge accepted.
I go, "You want to bet?" I go, "I'll tell you what, when I'm done with it, I want you to bring it back to them and show them when I'm done." Because they don't, these guys, they get the regular lot guys, they don't do stuff like that. No. So it'll be fun to show them up. And I'm almost done with it, and it looks really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, you going to do some before and afters? Yeah,
I did. Yeah, I took some videos, some photos and stuff.
It
didn't really photograph that well. It's white, and I was looking at the pictures, and it's not as dramatic as it looks in person.
Yeah, and that's a bummer sometimes, because I had a Porsche Cayman that came into the shop on Monday, and it came from a very highly respected Porsche dealership down here in Southern California, and they had their lot guy fix it, and he did not fix it. He made it worse. He actually made the biggest pizza pie I've ever seen on a dent. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like extra anchovies and stuff, just high spots everywhere. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And I quoted the guy an astronomical amount of money, knowing that he told me, he said the body shop wants to charge him $1,500 to repaint the door. I'm like, oh man, I'll fix it. And when I'm done, you're going to bring it back to that body shop. And so I remembered that I had the Power PDR box, and I started videotaping it and pulling out all these tight little lows. It was probably a bad sharp dent to begin with, but the guy just didn't have any skills at all. I got it 98% perfect. There was 2 little low spots that just would not release because he made such a mess of it. And the guy came back, and he was jumping up and down, gave me a Yelp review and everything. But I told him, take that back to McKenna Porsche in Huntington Beach and show them that their guy sucks. Not that I want the account.
Yeah. The first time we completed a major repair like that was from the front of the bed all the way to the wheel well. Guy had hit a pine tree and caved it in. And I was tag teaming with a friend of mine. We spent 8 hours on that truck, and we got it all done. And the body shop next door had said that it couldn't be done, and it was their customer.
Uh-huh.
And the guy I was working with, he hopped in that truck, and he pulled it in at about 30 miles an hour right through the front door of the body shop and locked up the brakes and just squealed to a stop in the middle of the body shop, got out, slammed the door, and looked at him and went, "Look at that, boys!"
Done.
And walked away.
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I'm sure most of us have good stories like that, and that's the fun part of PDR. We get to prove people wrong on a daily basis, right?
Well, even on a hail job, I mean, I complete a hail job. It's like a hail job.
Right.
You complete a big dent, you're like, I did this.
Yes.
This is my achievement for the day. Look at what I have accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know what the worst part was? I never took the after picture of the Cayman. So I took the before, I took the during.
I do that all the time.
Me too.
It's like, What the hell was I doing?
The guy shows up and I'm all excited. It's like, hey, come look at your car. Look what I did. I saved your car. And I totally forgot to get the after. So, and we all have those stories. It's fun. It's fun proving people wrong. That's for sure. So we have some topics going on today. We also want to remind you that we do have Man on the Streets coming up in this episode a little bit later. So stay tuned for that later on in the show. And our topic today is...
I just don't know how we're going to do a live proctology test on the podcast.
Well, we are all three of us.
I can't believe the new guy gets stuck doing it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
the
thank
new
you,
guy.
John, for volunteering.
We'll
have to post the video.
It's the logistical part. He's like 1,000 miles away from us right now. We're going to have to figure that out.
And as a hail guy, you're kind of used to taking it
in the pants. Good stuff. So yes, our topic today is going to be push to paint and making money with push to paint, whether it's a hail scenario or in a body shop or even at your shop locations or out on the street mobily. So Daniel came up with this topic based off of some things that he was seeing on the Facebook threads. So Daniel, you want to give us a little lead in as to what you want to talk here?
Yeah. Basically, I saw, I believe it's Simon up in Canada. He's the guy that always wins all the Dent Olympics. He's a phenomenal tech.
Phenomenal.
And he said he was increasing his business like 15 to 20% by doing more push to paint. Now, I think he works out of a body shop too. I think he has some kind of relationship there. So he's got a little inside track, and I think that's a little bit of an advantage that he has. But it started make me think, hey, how many guys are, looking at push to paint as a new revenue stream, and how do we take advantage of it? What are some of the steps the guys aren't doing it? I do a lot of push to paint with two segments: my motorcycles. I do a lot of push to paint for motorcycles. Mainly it's all the restoration work, vintage motorcycles. So I do a lot with that. And then, of course, aluminum for body shops is really my narrow segment of what I do with push to paint. What about you guys?
Well, for me, I've been doing push to paint for years. And to be honest with you, it saved me during the economic downturn. When back in 2008, the economy crashed, and I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do? No one's going to pay to fix a dent in a car. That's the last thing. They're trying to pay their mortgages and trying to pay, get food on the table. Everyone's getting their houses, repossessed, or they're getting kicked out, and everything's bad. And I'm like thinking, this is like the worst possible thing for a dent guy, because it's not a necessity. Dent removal is not a necessity, and especially
the car's still drivable.
Yeah, the car's still drivable, so it's like it's not the end of the world. Okay, we got a dent, I could live with it. So what I started doing was I did a lot of push to paint in my body shops, and at the time, I found that a lot of people were holding on to their cars longer. So the exact opposite of what I was thinking actually happened. People were holding on to their cars longer, and therefore getting some of the dents and dings and getting a detail, and they kind of have a new car again. So my business actually thrived during the economic downturn to the point that I added paint to our business. And as some of you listeners know, I have a paint division that does bumper repair. Well, at that time, bumper repairs were slow. So, building that end of the business. So I started taking on bigger dents where we would do a panel repaint. And when you could take, a huge dent with paint damage and shrink it down to something small that could be easily filled, skim coated, and kick it over to the painter to paint it and get it in and out and make $600-700, we were doing it all day long. And that's really how I survived the economic downturn, being a one-man show.
That's interesting. I'd never thought of push to paint outside of hail as pretty much a strictly a hail tech. I always thought a push for paint was kind of a hail guy's thing. I've been in a lot of body shops from one end of the country to the next, and I've done a lot of assist and help, deep scratch, but they didn't want any filler in the panel, or it's a blend panel and get it pushed out for them, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I never really thought of it in a brick and mortar store setup.
Let me ask you this, John. Where does push the paint come up in hail repair? Is it something you don't like to do, or it's a necessary evil? What's the deal?
I would say a necessary evil. I know I've talked with a lot of other hail techs, and they love doing a push for paint. You don't have to glass them out, so there's always that aspect. That last 30% of the dent is some of the roughest 30%. But generally, you see that push for paint and hail when it's really, really bad hail, and they're just deep and stretched. And what I'm curious is, are we going to see with the advent of the big dent machine, but the popularity that we're now seeing out of the Power PDR, like you were talking about earlier, Vince?
Yeah.
Are we going to see that change, or are we going to see the increase? The John Eagle Collision Center lawsuit, some shops, I know I'm down here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and some of these shops are getting paranoid about cutting roofs off now.
Yeah.
So they're going to want to see more push for paints. And with the advent of the Power PDR and the stuff that we can save for stretch stuff, even some burnt paint, they're not even going to care about.
Sure.
They're going to want to be able to sand it down, but not cut that roof off.
So when you do a push to paint, it's when a roof is just like, it's mainly for a roof, right?
Yeah, you mainly see it for the roof. The hood's too easy of a throwaway panel.
Yeah.
And when I personally do a push for paint, my goal is to get that roof skin up where they can DA it off with the 600 grit.
And that's it, huh?
Yeah. I don't want them using, nobody wants to put filler in a roof. A roof is way too flexible. So yeah, and we try to keep it clean and let the pickle marks that'll DA off. But there is a good profitability in it.
Sure.
And I think you guys bring up some really good points for guys to really think about.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it. So for us guys that aren't hail guys, so if you get a roof and you're doing a push to paint, what's the money like compared to doing a regular PDR roof?
Most of the money I've seen is about 80%.
And how much time does it take you?
Generally, those roofs are so bad. Generally, it takes about the same amount of time. Most of the time I would have just kicked that roof, but now nobody wants to cut it off. I'm trying to think of the last push for paint I did. The last one came out so good they sent it out the door. So it didn't even get sanded and painted. They figured the flaws that I had left in it were better than what their painter was going to leave. So they shipped it out the door. But for most of what the guys that I talked to, they take what would have taken them 6 or 7 hours and they're doing it now in 4, and they're getting 80% of the money.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty much the same as getting 100%. You make the same amount of dollars at the end of the day, but you skip the hardest part of the job, which is that last 20%, 30% of finishing those bad dents.
So that's good.
And really, push for paint really seems to come into play on the roofs with the death by the million dents, where they're small hail dents, but it's not even countable for the sheer number. Or you've got the 150 that are well oversized and they're just deep and kind of stretched.
Yeah.
So
it would probably be a good market because there's storms that's all you get, is just beat to crap stuff, Denver was a good example, or Colorado was a good example of that last year.
Yep. Scared
the pants out of most techs, and it was not for the meager.
Down here in Wiley, Texas, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Grapefruit size hail. I mean, you're talking big stuff. And now with these looming threat of the lawsuit and everything going on with that John Eagle.
Now, explain for people that don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Cliff Note version.
Okay. The fast version of that is the John Eagle lawsuit that you'll see referenced in Auto Body was a body shop had a bad hailstorm come through. They cut a roof off of a Honda. They glued it on, did not weld it on, even though that was what Honda stated as the proper repair procedure. The car was sold, got into a wreck. The people driving the car collapsed so much that they couldn't pry open the doors. A fire got started. The people got burned badly. They did not die, but they got burned badly, and they proved that the fact that the roof was glued on and not welded on led to the over-collapsing of the structural integrity of the car, which made it impossible to rescue the people in time. The body shop lost millions of dollars in the lawsuit, and they went after the technician that did the repairs, as well as they've named the insurance company. I think there's still other stuff going on it. You can just, a simple Google of John Eagle collision brings up every court document you could ever hear.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was pretty epic. It was monumental.
It was. And it's something, the lawyer that represented the people that bought the car has already stated that they will be looking for more and more.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So
it's a big ticket item for that law firm. That's for sure.
If I recall, the body shop lost $42 million.
Wow.
So, I mean, repairers are a large ticket item now.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So,
so one of the questions now is,
well, Daniel, one of the things you addressed too was aluminum.
Right.
Yeah. Hit on. How are you guys seeing that in the brick and mortars?
Oh, that is freaking fantastic. That's. I have a McLaren coming in tomorrow with a smashed fender, and it was probably easily a $10,000 repair, and I'm getting it. I'm not going to tell you how much I'm doing it for, but actually, it's not going to be a push to paint. I'll probably save it. But in the case that we do crack paint, they know that we might have to paint that fender. But with the aluminum is we're able to save the panels. Aluminum panels are inherently more expensive. You know that, John, from replacing hoods on hail cars.
Oh, absolutely.
They start at like $900, where a normal hood would be, $500-$600 or something like that.
And there's not as many aftermarket options available to replace the aluminum hoods.
Sure, exactly.
Oh.
And also with aluminum repair, technically, any body shop that's doing an aluminum repair is supposed to be in a completely separate room. It's flammable. The dust, the aluminum dust and powder and stuff like that. So I found that I don't do a lot of body shops anymore, but I do have a handful, and they do call me in to do the aluminum repairs to save that panel from having to be replaced. And what they're doing on the back end, I don't know. I don't know if they're charging for panel replacement or not. That's none of my business. But sure. I'm straightening it out for them and getting it to the point that they could skim coat it. Worst case scenario, skim coat. But like you said, John, I like to get it to the point that they just have to D8 off and a high build primer and be done with it.
Wow. Is that what you see, Daniel?
Yeah, well, in my situation, I have a local body shop that's Tesla certified. And so I've joined a relationship with him. I've educated them. And that's on my notes list here is how do you educate your body shops is you let them know, hey, that you can do a thing called push to paint. They might not know. And let them know that you're there for them for that. So educate your body shops is really important. And forging that relationship. And it's not even an account. It's not one of my accounts, but I went to them and said, hey, I'm electric car certified now, EV certified, and I'd like to be your guy for push to paint when you guys get these cars. And then I explained to him that my tips are removable. I have a separate set of tips just for working on aluminum.
That was going to be my next question, was the tips you guys are using for these push for paints on aluminum.
Yeah.
So I just have a separate little bar with, now I've got some aluminum tips. I think I picked up, I don't know where I picked up.
We got those from Carbon Tech. They came with Carbon Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which are really cool.
Yeah.
And so you're pushing aluminum on aluminum, which is great. And not cross-contaminating. Which is important.
Well, you know what? A lot of our listeners probably don't know that. You're contaminating the aluminum if you're using steel tips.
Yeah, if you're using the carbon rods or any, I think stainless is still considered good to go, but anything other than stainless, you risk the galvanic corrosion caused from cross-contamination of the two dissimilar metals.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's where I tend to use the doodah a lot in that aspect when I'm working on fenders, because it seems like I'm always saving fenders, and they're big, dense through the body line, through the edge, and I have to rebuild the edge and the body lines on fenders. And what you do see a lot with fenders is they'll rip. The aluminum will rip, especially if it's close to the edge. So I try to
on the Fords.
Yeah, the Fords are terrible with that. So I like to use soft tips to begin with like a rubber tip on the doodah or the phenolic tips. I use those that came from Ultra, and I'll upgrade when I need a sharper tip. I'll switch off to the Carbon Tech tips that the Carbon Tech rod came with, which are aluminum. If I need a sharp push, so those are some of my techniques for the dent removal side. The big smashes. I know, John, you don't see a lot of that in the hail.
No,
world.
I don't get a chance, especially on the aluminum side panels. By the time they come into the body shop, the guys are eager to throw it away and move on to the next.
Sure.
But when I am doing the aluminum, say the F-150s, the Audi A8s, everything that I have done that's all aluminum. I'm using the plastic tips and finishing everything out. In fact, I use one of Dentcraft's black hard plastic ball tips as one of my go-to hail pushing tools.
Yeah.
And then I'll switch to the B1 or BP1 or BP2 as a finishing tip on a lot of the all aluminums straight off of there. And I've never, I've taken some photos, and the only thing I got is some polish spots on the E-coat on the backside. Yeah. So.
And I have sacrificial knockdowns too when I'm doing push to paint, because I'm trying to keep my tips clean and not mar them or scar them. I would never use my VIP on a push to paint that I'm going to be whacking.
Yeah, you don't want to be wailing away on that tap down.
Yeah.
Here's a quick tech tip. I got this from Wade Hartley. He told me when you're doing those aluminums, and if you don't have a tape to wrap around your whale tail, an old piece of like toll cut, the sandpaper with the sticky back, stick that to your whale tail, stick it between there, and then push with your whale tail, and you can't cut through that toll cut. You'll just push on it without destroying that E-coat and pushing through and scratching that aluminum.
Wow.
Good one.
Yeah. The film is pretty thick on toll cut.
Yeah.
That's great.
So going back to you talking about tearing, I had that happen to me I was working on a Ford truck, and it was back by the tail light, and it kinked it wrapped around the edge and it buckled it. And I didn't think it was going to be a problem. There was no tearing in it at all or anything like that. I started pushing the dent, and it strained that other area, and it freaking ripped on me. I was like, crap. And so I had something similar, but I clamped it first. I
was just going to ask you guys about clamping.
Yeah, I put one of those. I've got those Blue Point clamps. They're like little L clamps for spot welding, and they're really small, and you can get them into some tight areas rather than trying to get big vice grips. And they work fantastic for that area. And
now, are those the little clamps that take the special pliers to put on?
No, they look like just about a 3-inch rectangle piece of aluminum, and it's got a little brass clamp on it. And you get them through Blue Point. I posted it before. When you're doing like a fender and you got a kink in that lip.
Yeah, in the wheel lip. Yeah.
And you put those clamps on there, and it keeps it from walking on you.
Oh, that was awesome. You had that as a tech tip probably 2 years ago, those clamps, Daniel. Yeah. So you might have to resurrect that and get us a link so we could put it on here.
They're super handy. I think I sent one to you and Mike,
No, you didn't send me one. You didn't like me back then yet. You didn't know me yet.
I still don't like you.
No, I think that, I think if there's ever a time to resurrect that, it's the day and age. I mean, the Chevys are going to have new aluminum doors, tailgates. The new Jeep Wrangler, the tailgate is magnesium, but the hood, the fenders, and doors are all aluminum.
Yeah.
The tubs, so the quarter panels are steel. I mean, we're going to see a lot.
What's magnesium?
The tailgate on the new Wranglers is magnesium.
Magnesium.
Yeah. Built-in. Well, Jeep has always been about camping, so it looks like a built-in fire starter to me.
Yeah,
Just
there you
scrape
go.
a little off the side and campfire.
I've never worked on magnesium that I know of.
Does it dent?
I've only ever seen it tear. F-150s
Yeah.
used to use them for radiator support way back in the 90s.
Sure. Yeah,
So-
I would think that it would tear rather than or fracture.
Oh,
Okay.
it's probably military grade.
Oh, military grade.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see the long-term results of oversized spare tires.
But you think about a truck that has a good dent on it, and they can't fix that. They've got to replace that whole bedside. So think of the money that you're going to be saving that insurance company, and that's where, I think you almost have to get involved with the body shop a little bit and asking, hey, what's repair time on this?
Well, I think most local dent guys have some sort of open relationship with the body shop somewhere in their area. So I think this is a phenomenal topic that you guys brought to the table.
Now, when you're in Mobile Tech RX and you look at the conventional repair cost, it doesn't break it down at all, does it?
No, we don't give the full breakdown. There's actually been some talk right now. The reason we just haven't devoted the time or money into that because we're still doing so much development on the other end of it.
Yeah.
But as we come out with the full conventional, there's probably going to be a comparative pricing 2.0 with a lot more breakdown.
I mean, if you could just pull out the part that they'll get for repairing that insurance companies would repair or give body man repair time, then you'd be arming yourself with what you could charge maybe.
Sure. And we've talked about that in-house just a little bit about making it so, what's the maximum repair time? I know CCC, Autotex each have a version of that as well.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now, the other thing that when working on aluminum, always heat. Heat makes it move like butter. So same with
actually, we just had a discussion about that today. Doesn't Ford have a technical bulletin out for the F-250? And it could be involved in the F-150s. I'll need to do a little more research. But it says to heat it up to X temperature before removing that damage.
Interesting. I think all of us, we've talked about it quite a bit, John, through past episodes working on aluminum. The optimum temperature is 160 or above. And as we all know, it also takes a long time for paint to start to bubble on aluminum opposed to steel, the way that it, dissipates the heat.
Oh, absolutely. We took the aluminum hot box with a FLIR camera.
That's right.
And we weren't burning the paint off even up to almost 300 degrees. And on a steel panel, it would have burnt off at about 220. It would have melted off. But the aluminum kept dissipating, that we were not charring the paint on that aluminum. It was insane.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool stuff.
And that's someplace else where your aluminum hot box could come in, is if you're pushing some sharp, deep stuff on aluminum, and I've done this on hoods and saved bad dents, hit it with that aluminum hot box and you get that immediate heat in there without running the gun on it. It also will bring up that panel. When you're pushing on aluminum and aluminum flexes so far and you got that, you're trying to push right in the center, but it raises up and you got the volcano,
right,
and you can no longer see the center. Well, I'll take my aluminum hot box, create the volcano with that aluminum hot box, and then I can have my light right there and see right where the center of the dent is, get my tool on it and finish out the dent.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? You blast out, you get it all, you get a big old volcano, and then you get in there, blast out the center, and then it cools off and it saves
flat.
everything. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So what are some specific tools that you use or push to paint? Anything?
Well,
other than the tips that we just talked about?
Mostly those are the tips that I'm using normally a much larger tip. For a lot of finish work, I use a finer tip when it comes to hail. So yeah, I'm using a blunter tip. I mean, an R4 with a cherry cap is a go-to, and you can take every other make and model and create some Chrysler orange peel in it with that.
Yeah,
and that's good enough to paint for most body shops. They'll DA that off with 600 grit, pull it into the booth, and spray it out all day long.
Yeah.
What do you guys? I mean, you guys are talking about doing large stuff on the side. What's some of the key tools and tips that you guys are using? Tell me a little bit more. I haven't seen these aluminum tips from Todd at Carbon Tech. So tell me a little bit more about those.
Well, they're basically, it's the interchangeable tip set that you get with Ultra Tools when you get a standard interchangeable tip set, but they're just made out of aluminum. So it has the one that accepts the chair rail tip, and it has a blunt pencil, I guess, and then it has the sharp pencil. And I think that's about it, right, Daniel? There's like three in there?
Three, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're made of aluminum.
I just mainly use the sharp one when I'm doing push to paint on aluminum.
But
so,
I know
aluminum is pretty tough to do on Teslas sometimes. Depends where it's at, but it's very similar to the Ford, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't believe I've ever fixed a Tesla, maybe outside of a door dent once, but otherwise, yeah, I haven't done. Most of the shops I've been in apparently are not high end enough.
You'll start seeing more of it.
You will.
I think so. I really think so.
Yeah.
Now those tips, those are available from either Carbon Tech or from Ultra. I'm gonna look. I gotta have to look into them.
I would think so. I would think.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. We got them from Todd, and it just came with our hail rod when we ordered them. So,
okay.
But I would assume if they're in the set, you could get them from Ultra. You could get them from Anson or anywhere else that carries Ultra tools or the.
I'll be
Carbon
down
Tech.
to Anson tomorrow, so I'll see if they have any.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, I just booked my next flight out to Anson. I'll be there at the end of May for our listeners. If you want to come out and visit, we'll be doing another EV seminar, and I'm going to go get. I gave some misinformation on the EV seminar or podcast. So I got reprimanded. So now I have to go back and take the class again.
Get spanked.
Awesome.
I got spanked by the big guys. So I'm going to go out and get recertified on my certification.
What are some downsides of push to paint? Is there any?
For me, my downside falls into I'm always afraid that I'll get used to that level of finish and won't even think about it when I get on a non-push for paint. So, and that's from the hail perspective, even though it really doesn't happen. I mean, you're careful, you're aware of what you're doing, you're aware of your surroundings, but I don't like to see my finish work only stop at that marker, that 70 or 80% marker.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How about you guys?
I agree with you, John. I have a hard time not finishing something. Sometimes I lose sleep over it. That McCann. I actually lost sleep over the fact that I couldn't get the last two push marks out.
Last two spots. Yeah.
So, but the downside for me is also what John mentioned, but also there's a lot of fatigue in working the big dents, and
there is.
And the arms and there's times that you'll wake up in the morning and your hands are clenched closed because you just busted your butt. Like I'm anticipating, Daniel, you'll probably wake up sore tomorrow from working on that truck bed all day long.
No, actually, I was using my carbon hail rod, and geez, it is laughable how easy it is to push with that thing.
It does. It kind of transfers every bit that you push into the end of the rod up into the panel. You don't fight the flex of the tool.
Sure.
What I'm having a hard time with is, I wear glasses and you're so friggin' far away. And I have bifocals or trifocals. I forget.
You got those progressives.
Progressives. Yeah. Thank you. And so I can't really see my pushes. I'm looking at the plane of the dent and trying to get it all level.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different for me working that far away.
Yeah.
But what's your downsides to doing push for paint?
Just I don't know if there is a downside. I'd actually like to get more of it.
Really?
That's, I mean, I like to see more of it come my way. You know,
I read that. I read the post.
Most of the time, the downside is they want me to come to their shop, and I don't want to go to shops anymore. So.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah. Especially when you're already paying for your brick and mortar. I read the post that you're talking about, and he brought up some phenomenal points about doing it, and I didn't fully understand until we're talking here and catching you guys' real life perspective of the same thing. And if you've got a brick and mortar store and you've got a relationship with a body shop, this is something possible.
Yeah. Especially for like, I would think like a new technician that has not perfected their finish yet, that last 10%. Push to paint,
but you get to learn how to get those big dents started.
Oh, exactly.
That's an art. That's an art in itself. Like Daniel, you just said you did like multiple panels of huge dents. Yeah. Each one of those panels, you had to start in a different mannerism.
Sure. Yeah.
So
a new technician should not turn down push to paint because you're going to learn a lot about the metal and how it works and how it moves. And, it will be car specific or model specific, but at least you tuck that away in your Rolodex in your brain. And you're like, okay, I remember that Audi A3 and I remember that front fender is aluminum and you know how it's going to move. And, it'll speed you up on the smaller stuff as well. And I think that's another advantage.
It's a great training ground.
It's a great training ground.
It is. Yeah. I agree with you guys there. 100%.
It is push to paint. So you can screw up.
You can.
Yeah. You've got your margin of error.
Yeah.
And it's built in. So,
yeah. And PDR guys will always get it straighter than body guys nowadays.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't think there's been a body shop that I've ever worked in that I haven't had a body tech come to me and go, can you give me some metal straightening tips so I don't have to spend so much time sanding filler?
Yeah.
If I can speed this up, what's some ways I can do that?
Oh, sure.
Well, it's funny that you say that. I walked into a body shop and I was watching this guy work a panel and it was oil canning on him. And I walked in from far away and I could see exactly what was going on with the panel. And I saw exactly what he was doing wrong. He needed to hit down the eyebrows to bring that metal back. And
that's a common rookie mistake, missing your highs.
Yeah. And so I walked up to him and I go, hey, do you mind if I help you out? And he goes, sure, go ahead. And I just took out my blending hammer and I just blended real rough. I didn't care because they were going to bond to it anyway. And I just, started whacking away. And he looked back and his eyes got big and goes, holy crap, man, it's not oil canning. How'd you do that? And I go, I use my eyes, not my hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to look. Body man don't use their eyes. They're all feeling everything.
Well, and honestly, that goes back to a lot of training, and that goes back to a lot of what has been talked about here recently about improving that early round training and getting guys to understand there's a lot more to being able to see than just having lights on in a room.
Oh, yeah.
We use specific lighting and understand to look for highs and lows. And a body guy, he's just trying to feel for a low.
Yeah.
Now, how many times do you go into a body shop and you see a body man? Oh, yeah, I bought some dent tools on eBay. Man. And I look at everything and he goes, what do you think? I look at everything. There's no light every single time.
Every time. And generally, when they ask me what I think, I tell them how many cents per pound I will give
Right.
to knock the dust off of them. Unless I help them put together the order, and then they buy good stuff.
Yeah.
And but I do that because if it's a shop I have to slip back into for a door dent real quick, I don't want to have to unload my tools.
Exactly.
I'm going to be able to.
Yeah, tools sitting there waiting for you.
One of the first things I have them get is a light.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, buy this light. Buy the light. Even if you're going to do regular body work.
He's mad at you now.
Yeah.
Don't teach him that light, man.
Well, here's the funny story about Daniel. Daniel actually, when he goes to work in the morning, he hooks up that his his hammer to his to his belt, right? So he doesn't take that off until he goes to bed at night. So wherever he goes, when he goes out for lunch, he's walking in between cars, going into Wendy's, getting a double stack, and he's going to get a double stack, and he sees a little crown on someone's car. He pulls it off his belt and goes, pat, 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 pat. Gets back in and gets his double stack and his bacon with chives on it.
I'm like Batman, man.
Yeah,
go gadget.
He goes to
drive by high spot tapping.
Exactly. He's at Home Depot and he sees some reflection of something over there on the wall and starts tapping it down. He sets nails in crown moldings. He just gets up there and just sets them in there. Ain't that right, Daniel?
Right.
Okay. I just making sure I'm letting everyone know you're, the true Daniel Grom. So on that note.
And now we'd like to bring you our man on the street, Derek Yost, 19-year PDR tech. How you doing, Derek?
I'm good, Daniel. How are you, man?
Great to see you, man.
Wonderful to see you on here finally.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's
So-
only my second podcast.
Nice.
Derek is probably the hardest working man behind the scenes at MTE. This guy's always working for somebody, it seems like, or doing something. He's always lending a hand. And we just wanted to show him some love and tell him how much we appreciate you.
Yeah.
We
Thank you, man.
you are working behind
Yeah.
the scenes. You don't get enough credit. Don't get enough pats on the back. So there you go.
Attaboys.
Attaboys.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, and not only MTE, but you've done the mega media events for the guys, for Mike and John,
Yep.
and you've worked with Ryan Hampton with his Hail conference, and
Yep.
it seems like you're
Yeah.
kind of the go-to guy behind the scenes going on right now.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I enjoy every minute of it. So, I mean, helping other guys succeed, it eventually helps me succeed. So,
PDR College as well. I totally forgot
Yeah.
about PDR College.
yeah. So, I mean, I've had 3 back-to-back this year so far. The Advanced Skills Seminar, helping Shane and Keith out, doing video for them, running stuff behind the scenes, and then doing Hampton's event in St. Louis, and then, helping Mike and John out at the last media event in Texas. So, yeah, it's awesome.
And I know that's a lot of work because for many years I was kind of the man behind the scenes with Mike and the camera. I did a lot of the camera footage for Mike, and you get no glory in it. You're not in front of the camera, and not that I was looking for glory, but
Yeah.
it's an essential part of any type of production is someone behind the scenes manning everything and getting those operations done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you can let those guys that are running those seminars focus on what they need to focus on, it makes the whole thing run smoother. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason that I offered up help to, all of them. I mean, I want to make sure that everybody succeeds and everybody gets what they need to.
And I think that's a good sign of someone that loves the industry, and it
Oh,
definitely shows
absolutely.
you love the industry. Sorry, Daniel,
Yep.
go ahead.
So, what kind of situation do you work in? So the audience knows what you do. Are you a route guy? You a brick and mortar? You a hail chaser? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, technically, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I mean, I've been running a retail shop for the last 15 years for the company that I'm at right now. Been in the industry this is my 19th year. So, I mean, I do just a little bit of everything. I go mobile 1 day a week. I have an account that, they don't really want to use anybody but me. So I have to go there, service them, come back, and then I'm at the shop 4 days a week doing retail, wholesale, body shop work. I mean, I have stuff that just comes and gets dropped off to me without any notification at all. So it gets a little hard to handle sometimes, but I make it through every day.
Yeah. Now tell us, this is a tool podcast. So tell us a couple of the tools that you've gotten recently that you just fallen in love with.
Definitely my one-off Mobile Tech shade that I won from at Mobile Tech Expo. It's got a Batvac base on it. It's the heavy-duty umbrella system, and he's given me, I think, 3 extensions with it. So I can put that thing probably 10 foot off the car and just supply enough shade. Let's see what else.
Well, that's just in time for the summer. It's right around the corner. You need that shade.
I used it all day Wednesday, and man, it saved me. My
Yeah.
calf still got burnt, but other than that,
But hey, your dent was shaded, right?
oh yeah, the dent was definitely shaded. So, but yeah, it's a really awesome setup. I mean, that 6-inch sea sucker cup that got put on the backpack base, it's just unreal.
Yeah, that's great. What else
So-
you got? Like hand tools, door tools. You got something wild and crazy that's your
Did you
go-to?
get any of the Stangliner tools?
No, I do not have any of them. I went to go buy I think it was the Killer Whale was the one that they released this year at Mobile Tech. And I went to buy it, and they were completely sold out, and haven't had a chance to get online and order one yet. I'm very interested in that tool.
I just ordered mine. It's in
Yeah.
there. I'm excited.
Oh, so interested in that tool, man. That thing could save so much time on fenders and just about anywhere. So,
Well, I used the Pirate Hook today, and that tool is a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if Bryce Kelly endorses something, it's got to be good.
Oh, sure.
Well, it was him that showed me how to use the tool.
Yeah.
And it was just that little instruction that, okay, now I understand it. I get it. But when you get in your hand, it's so easy. It's probably the easiest tool to use in his tool set. And you get the concept right away. You just rock it back and forth, and it takes out creases.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you believe. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I use it every day. Since I got it, I use that Pirate Hook every day.
I'm definitely going to have to get one then.
Yeah, it's my go-to tool now. So, well, that's good. So anything wild and crazy that you want to share with our listening audience?
Don't really have anything right now. I've got something that I've been working on for a few months right now. So hopefully it'll hopefully change the industry up a little bit. And yes, it is another hammer,
All right.
but there's nothing like it right now on the market. So
Sweet.
yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
That's great. And as far as our listening audiences go, whoever needs some audio or video work done, when it comes to PDR and stuff like that, seminars, there's all sorts of big companies out there that do these seminars, and I think they should all grab you because you're very professional about what you do.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that a lot.
And you're able to capture, the dent guy perspective of it. So,
Yeah.
and that's when you're hiring these companies, outside companies, they don't know what to do. And I think,
Yeah. Capturing some of those shots is really tough, especially, when you're having to be over the guy's shoulder and trying to capture that shot while he's blending or something like that. It's pretty tough.
Yeah.
Especially to keep in focus. I mean, it's pretty tough.
oh, sure. Well, great. Anything else, Daniel?
No, I think that's about it. I appreciate you coming on the show today. And
When you come out with your hammer, you're coming back on. So keep that in mind.
Cool. Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. So, is there any tech tips, Daniel? It's time for some tech tips.
you know what? I do have some tech tips.
Fantastic. John, if you could think of one, I know you gave one already. If you don't want to give another one, that's understandable.
This one comes from Ian Cordell, Dent Solutions. He came into my shop, and a lot of guys use torches, right? I try to, we hooked up a fender, and I bring over my heat gun on a stand, and he's like, no, I'm a torch guy. And I'm like, okay, man, calm down with the torch guy. But what he had, and I haven't seen anybody ever post this, but his torch was on a cord. So his bottle was sitting down on the ground, and he had a long cord with the torch end. So the bottle was separate. So he wasn't holding a heavy bottle while he was using the torch. And I was like, oh, that's way easier and way better. And I guess you can buy them at Home Depot. I had no idea. And so there's your little tech tip. Go to Home Depot, look for a corded torch end.
Well, that would be for the guys that don't want to invest in the strong arm by getting grip now.
Yeah, well, that's what I was curious about. That tip that we showed during the show, the MTE at the tour review. You could put that on that strong arm with a 3-pound, barbecue grill bottle on the adapter cord.
But that thing, the thing that he's putting on that strong arm is got a different end.
Okay.
It's more of like a heat gun kind of tempered end thing to it.
Yeah,
right?
you know, it would probably screw into that if it screws into the bottle.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what? Hey, we might be onto something for Get a Grip Now. I'll have to talk to him over there. He's a good dude.
Right on.
Yeah. Actually, Ian wouldn't use one of those because I think that's kind of one of his direct competitors with umbrellas. So I don't think we'll see Ian with a strong arm.
I don't think he cares.
No, he probably doesn't.
No. Hey, Ian's already got the naturally strong arms. It's like
true.
I was just on the phone with him the other day, and he's like, you know what? If it doesn't hail, why don't you just come on out to Napa? Let's have a little fun. We'll fix some door dents. So if it stays as a slow year, I'm going to be out there in Napa fixing some door dents with Ian.
There you go.
He just opened a shop.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said and right there on the main drag in Napa. So I really look forward to seeing some photos of that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and you're only like 20 minutes away from Daniel by that point, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what my thought was. It was a twofer.
Yeah,
So.
Definitely.
and then you drive down 8 hours to my place. It's only 8 hours. Hop,
Only
skip,
8
and the jump.
hours. Wait, I'm already that close. We're already 1,500 miles closer.
Exactly.
So-
Everybody thinks I live next door to Vince.
Yeah, I know that's funny.
We're all in California, real close to each other, right?
Yeah. Everything in California is close. Sure. Well, I'll just reiterate my tech tip of the toll cut. You can use that in a pinch. You can use that sandpaper on the end of your whale tail. And because it's generally we're getting them in 2,000, 2,500, 3,000 grit. So you're not going to bust through that E-coat, and you can use that in a pinch to get on the end of your whale tail.
Plus, it might give you some traction.
That's true. If especially on aluminum that likes to flex and slip up and you get tool slippage, it would probably give you extra traction on that. So
That's awesome.
Give it a try.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't have a tech tip this week. I promise I will have one next week. I had a couple and I wrote them down and left them at the shop. So
put them in your phone.
Tech tip is to put your notes in your phone.
Oh, okay. Well, I could give you that one because for you guys out there, you know that we use Voxer to communicate with ourselves and within our companies and stuff like that. Voxer actually has a note-taking thing that I clearly did not utilize. So whenever you're on the fly, my brain is always going with inventions and stuff like that. So while I'm driving, if I think of something, I just hit the notes thing and actually talk into Voxer and save it for later, and I could listen back to it.
I don't think I've utilized that.
No, it's actually quick and easy, but I wasn't using it for my tech tips, and I'm going to switch over to it now.
That's good.
So,
good tech.
Yeah,
there you go.
that's a good idea.
Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning into another episode of PDR Tool Time. This was episode 118. Daniel, what do you got to say?
Guys, do me a favor. Level up your tools.
John, you're going to need a punch phrase if you're coming on the show often.
I'm going to have to come up with something. You caught me off guard with the punch. Don't do stupid things.
And join the revolution. Thanks for tuning in, guys and girls.
Whoops.
Gonna smack you one in the chops. Better feel lucky. I don't take all of your money. I don't pull no stops. The gas is buying man, taking through all he can. American.